When you have 10 trucks or over 6,600 trucks, the goal is the same. Put the most revenue miles on each one. But do things change when your fleet count is in the thousands? And what do companies do to tackle the extra complexities that come with size? Well, folks, strap right in because we're going to find out in this episode of Loaded and Rolling. Welcome to Loaded and Rolling, everybody. I'm your host, Thomas Watson, Enterprise Trucking Carrier here, expert here at FreightWaves, and we're going to have a little bit of a treat for you today. We're going to be bringing on in a little bit, once we get them pulled in, of course, Josh Smith, Vice President of Variant and Over-the-Road Operations at Xpress Enterprises, Inc. But until we do get him pulled in, we're just going to be talking a little bit about how trucking fleets in general are going to be managing, especially in times of the cyclical part of the business, trucking business cycle. So this is another part of what I like to call I Can Trucking and So Can You segment, brought to you by myself and a book called Truckload Transportations by a guy named Leo Lazarus. So, for most folks trying to understand, we got Josh, so we're going to cut over to that instead. So, folks, getting really excited here. Joining us, of course, is going to be Josh Smith, talking about how U.S. Xpress and their Variant program is one example of an enterprise trucking fleet that is tackling the challenge from the ground up in terms of not only trying to revamp trucking, but bring it into the 21st century. Those of you who don't know Josh, he has been with U.S. Xpress for nearly 10 years, and before taking on the operations leadership role, he's been with customer experience as well as customer service. Josh, welcome, sir. Good to see you again.
Thomas, long time no see. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Excited as well. I'm digging the background. We're trying to get my synthwave one to move, but I haven't got enough viewers yet, so we're working on that.
Yep. I can understand. Yeah, I'm here in Chattanooga on our third floor doing the ops stuff. So figured, I'd call in, from straight from here. So again, good seeing you.
Perfect. And for folks who don't know, tell us a little bit how you got into trucking, a little bit of your background experience, because I feel like being in trucking, 10 years feels more like 20 or 30 in this kind of line of work.
Yeah, it can definitely age you pretty quickly. My first gig here at U.S. Xpress was a fleet manager. Started out, I believe, in 2008. Time flies, but learn how to run trucks here. I guess I'm kind of homegrown to U.S. Xpress. I've been around the block, done several roles here. Did load planning. I've done customer experience, customer service. I've done our ad hoc team. Previous to Vice President of Variant, I was leading our customer experience team here at U.S. Xpress, and then about 6 months ago, took over the Variant and then OTR operations gig. So, little background on me and how I got here.
It's been a wild ride for sure. And for folks who don't know about what Variant is, describe a little bit about what the Variant program is and what y'all are trying to do within the organization.
Yeah, so we're a driver-facing model, driver-facing brand. Started out in 2019. At that time, we were super tech focused. We put a lot of resources into technology. Now, I guess that you could say that we're a more of a traditional trucking operation with a slight twist. And I say that because we have learned several lessons over the last 2 years on really what makes this tick. And U.S. Xpress has been around for a really long time. So I think where we're at now, Thomas, is really taking care of drivers, making sure that we're getting back to the fundamentals of trucking. And we've again done this for a really long time. And then using some of those lessons that we learned in the last couple of years and blending the cool tech that we've built along the way. And then blending that with the overall experience that we have, to make trucks run efficiently. So, pretty exciting, taking care of the drivers, taking care of the people, and then really just moving some freight for our customers.
And I like the tech component. Is there any cool things you are allowed to talk about in regards to like some of the cool technology that you either are using or that Variant kind of got to check out and test?
Yeah, the last couple of years we developed a lot. Like we had our hands in a lot of different, tech resources. But at the end of the day, there are core KPIs and core metrics that we have to hit and we have to be focused on. And we've kind of scaled that back and then really focused on what makes the trucks move most efficiently, with cool tools for our drivers, cool ways to really position our trucks and make our trucks in the best position to be profitable, but also take care of the drivers, getting them home on time. Giving them some money in their wallets obviously is something that's super important. And then using our customers that we have core relationships with that we've had for many years, and then just blending it all together, so that we can make this thing move rather well.
And stepping into like a VP role, for a lot of folks, and when brokers think of trucking, they think of like 10 trucks. For a segment of the audience, what are some of the biggest surprises, or what was some of the cool things you got to do as you move up? For folks who don't know what it's like getting to steer the helm of like thousands of trucks in a business unit.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's a 24/7 operation, obviously. Making sure that you have enough resources to support the staff that you have internally, the drivers that you have on the road. Christmas Day, we've got drivers out on the road. So, obviously thanking our drivers for doing that, but making sure that we have the support staff in place to take care of it. I guess one of the biggest transitions, Thomas, and you probably, when we worked together years and years ago, had many management positions along the way. But when you step into a VP role, it's really about people, taking care of the people, making sure that they're in a really good place, and then we believe that moves the number. So I guess what I would say is people management is first and foremost. And that's really the biggest transition, really, from a VP to, some of those mid-level management roles.
Well, I feel like, especially within such a large organization, it almost goes from problem management, and then the higher up you go, you're like, hey, how do I empower people? How am I picking the right people? It feels like almost like, you're one of those baseball owners and you're figuring out who's your general manager and what kind of players are going to fit in different roles. Is that kind of one of the cool things, I guess, with Variant? Y'all get the opportunity to try out different combinations of staff and drivers and see if you can hit that sweet spot.
Yeah, and as you know, US Xpress has many different roles. We've got customer experience team, we've got a load planning team, we've got a brokerage, we've got a dedicated model, we've got an over the road model, we've got a pricing team, we've got HR. So we have a full force of talent. In the fun part, or I guess the most meaningful, impactful things that I can do is really put people in the right positions to be successful, from both, personal and career growth. And I tell my team all the time that if I wasn't doing this role, I would be a coach somewhere. But with the experience of, being in transportation, combining that with, a coaching mindset and coaching mentality, I consider myself a transportation coach. So yeah, to your point, it's really fun to have a huge talent pool like we do at US Xpress, and then get them in the right position to be successful, and then make our company successful.
And I think there's one thing, I'm looking at the notes here. The Variant team is focused on a two-person team. I remember back in my day, back when we had to walk up hills both ways, I had my 55 truck fleet, of course. You're kind of strapped in for the ride. Yep. What's kind of the thing with the two? How does that work? And what are some of the things y'all have found out? Is it like one's a manager and one manages the messages, or how? What's the deal on that one?
Yeah, so it's. This is a hard gig. Transportation is not really for everybody. I think that there's some pride into it, and we call it running trucks. And to do that, you've got to put your people in the best position to be successful, and then to really have a good relationship with the driver. So we've tried several different things along the way. We've tried, the one-person model, the direct fleet management, but we've really found success recently in a two-person model. And how that looks is basically you've got a driver focus, and then you've got a truck focus. So, we've got it split down to around anywhere from 80 to 90 trucks, and two people kind of tag teaming, working as a team to make sure that the drivers within that fleet are successful. Taking care of drivers' issues, really, have an understanding of what the driver's going through, and then also from a customer standpoint, making sure that we're on time. We're on time to pick up. We're on time to deliver, and then getting those drivers and trucks again, in the best position. So that's our take on it currently. Just recently went to that. And have found some success. So we're pretty excited about it and going to stick with it.
I think it's exciting because I felt like with the one-person model at 55, you either had time to deal with the truck-related problems or the driver-related problems, and you eventually had to catch up with one or the other. So it almost feel like even with the technology on the back end giving you heads up, it could sometimes feel like if you have a rough day and a lot of things are breaking or a weather event, that you could quickly get overwhelmed sometimes.
Yeah, it's nice to have a partner and a teammate as you're going through the day, like you mentioned. I mean, 55 trucks and one person, that's a lot. That's a lot going on. Transportation never stops. There are, issues that come up hourly. So it's nice to have a partner in crime, I guess you could say, to help get you through the day and help make the driver successful.
And for the Variant brand, I know you have it's a whole new brand, the tractors. I think you're still using the same trailers, but for the drivers themselves, does it come with any extra thing? I know companies will do road team captains, they'll have driver coaches, they'll have folks that can check in on them. Is there some unique things that you've got from driver feedback that you all are trying to put into this model to help out with retention and quality of life?
Yeah, so I mean, we take the approach that we let the drivers in on kind of what we're doing. Um, for the operation, we have monthly town halls with all of our drivers. They're recorded. We take their feedback very seriously. We like to hear what their issues are out on the road and try to make them try to fix them, or just be honest with them and say, hey, this is sometimes part of trucking, and we can partner you up with a mentor to help you get through your day. But to your point, we have really good equipment, some of the best equipment in the business. So when you drive for Variant, you get a really good truck. We've got new trailers. We've got best of the best equipment. And then, from a driver management standpoint, we've got some really good people. We've got some tough people, and we've got some people that are working with those drivers that really understand the business and can really help out. But yeah, I mean, we're talking to our drivers all the time. We've got an operation in Tunnel Hill along with Chattanooga, where I'm currently at. And we're talking to those drivers. We're meeting the new drivers out of orientation. The onboarding process is something that we're able to do in person a lot of the time. So that's kind of what you get when you come drive with us.
And I feel like coming from the pandemic, because Variant was 2019, were there any big changes? I'd read some places where I know with orientations in schools, it got difficult because of having to do virtual versus in person. But were there any big changes or any big surprises coming before and after the pandemic that you all have had to work through, especially being a large fleet and going through some of the changes?
I mean, before it was chaos, Thomas. You know that it was. CDL schools were shut down. It was really tough to get a good quality driver that's new. And the pandemic, as everybody knows, changed really everything. But afterwards, I mean, I think that we're seeing drivers and people just want to interact more. More in-person stuff, seeing drivers at terminals and things like that. I think that they enjoy the in-person training, the driver simulation, and all the cool stuff that they were able to help with during the orientation. And you mentioned the pandemic, and I've been talking a little bit about the grit, I guess, that it takes to work in transportation. And since 2019 through the pandemic, we've seen so many different market swings. There's been so much volatility in the market. And I really think that our people, drivers included, office staff, I think careers have progressed or maybe expedited as far as experience goes, just because it's been so crazy. It's been an up and down. A couple months during the pandemic, you'd have a really high demand month. Right after that, depending on which sector you're in, as far as retail or experience, type freight, you would see a lull. So the last 2 to 3 years have really been, pretty incredible to be in and be part of transportation, just because it's really, made our progressed our careers, I think, from an experience standpoint.
I completely agree. I feel like I gained a few extra gray hairs during the pandemic and then
Well,
swapped totally different roles because of it. Now I work in media and get to talk with people. And, I think for one thing, going through here, we'll hit back on variant in a minute, but for folks who are unaware with how large trucking carriers work, when I went over to a brokerage and I went even helping build a small carrier, it feels like an alien concept to understand just how technical and how complex it is. For folks who are just trying to wrap their heads around like how you operate so big at scale, what are some of the coolest things that you all have implemented, or what are some big important things that folks need to consider when they're trying to work with a large fleet? Like I've had brokers get mad and say, why did the load not get picked up? Is there any cool like tips or trips behind the scenes you can share that kind of help influence some of how you all operate and what your priorities are compared to like a smaller company that just is cared about booking the next day?
Yeah, we're certainly customer focused. Getting freight picked up and delivered on time sounds really easy, but it's actually very complicated because you've got the driver component in there, traffic. You've got people getting sick. So really, communication is where it's at. So we feel that we've got a really good communication product and management within our operation, so that we can really have a really good understanding of what the driver's doing in the current state, so that we can quickly get that information, relay it to our customers, and let them know that they are going to be late. And then from the customer side of things, because it is so dynamic and it is so complicated from a supply chain standpoint, any flexibility or weekend shipping or anything like that is certainly helpful, for a large carrier. So, right now, obviously, we're in a down market, so those things aren't as impactful. But when we get back to that up market, that's certainly something that can help a carrier out, and help get your freight serviced if need be in a more up market.
Well, I feel like trailer pools as well. You were a load planner, I used to be a load planner. I feel like you could almost, while FreightWaves has sonar data, you could almost ask a large fleet and say, how many people are holding onto your trailers and detaining them? And you can find a lot about inventory. Was that something as well that, as we're moving in the market, are those kind of the things you can kind of pick up and say, hey, if all of these customers across the board are keeping these things loaded longer, maybe we're in for a situation where we need to start either, looking at live loads or bring in more in the mix or go on the spot board? Or are there any kind of cool indicators like that? Because I remember the trailer game was like a whole game within a game.
Yeah, we believe that if you don't have a trailer, you really don't have a truck when it comes to capacity. A trailer is just as important as a truck, for the most part, outside of power only or things like that. But so much so that we've really revamped our trailer management team. We're putting a lot of energy and effort into that, for those reasons that you mentioned. Through the pandemic, you would see many shippers holding on to trailers. One, because they didn't have the labor to get them unloaded, and then now it's a little bit on the opposite side. Customers are holding on to trailers because they don't have the sales to or the need to offload some of that equipment. So the trailer management process is certainly important. It's something that we believe in, and that we're developing tools for, along with putting some really good people behind that process, to make it, one, easier for drivers to find a trailer, because as you know, sometimes that can be difficult. And then also for us to really understand where trailers are at, which ones are available, so that we can really increase the speed in which drivers are unloaded, and then to another trailer if need be, and then to that shipper. So I feel like we've got a pretty good formula and pretty good people behind it, to help with some of those trailer issues that you're referring to.
I feel like having the right people in the staff as well. That's important because I remember I'd send drivers, and the technology's gotten so much better. I don't know if y'all are still using Skybits, but I remember using the Skybit stuff. I spoke with them at F3, and they were working on some cool stuff as well, like cameras inside them. But having that as like fixing a pain point with drivers, with Variant as well. Circling back to the Variant program, does that also kind of help out having the extra staffing and the adjustments? Do they normally feed into the regular customer experience and CX team, or is it kind of a fleet within a fleet in terms of how it operates in the structure?
So, I mean, everybody has plays a part in trailer management. We've got our brokerage team, we've got our dedicated team, we've got our CX team who has that direct relationship with our customers. You've got drivers, you've got my team on the operations side of things. So everybody really plays a part in trailer management. But yes, it's heavier on the CX side, customer experience side, plus the trailer management side. And then we work together to make sure that we've got a wagon for the drivers and for also the customer.
And like a few things, if there's any anecdotal stuff, especially when we're talking down market, how have most customers been feeling right now going into it? Are we having a situation where the customers are pretty receptive, or do you always deal with those random customers that are like, I just want the cheapest thing and I don't care who hauls it, even if I have trailer pools?
It's a mixed bag. We have a very strong customer base, long-standing relationships that help mitigate some of that, and we're very thankful for those relationships. And we've worked really hard to keep those in times like this, where we can see our contract freight, which obviously is so important right now with spot being over $1 less than contract in many cases. But yeah, I mean, the customer relationship is certainly important, and that's something that we definitely value.
Looking at growth patterns, so Variant and you have the OTR business, you have dedicated, expedited, and other parts of the organization. Is Variant kind of one of the things where it's going to be like tip of the spear, and then the changes get flown out, or is there plans to grow them both in tandem and then make adjustments?
Yeah, I mean, we feel like transportation and trucking is a market indicator. It's not a lag indicator. So truck count is large in part dependent on the market. Unfortunately, right now it's more of a down market. So we're trying to settle in. With where we're at, but definitely can flex up. We've got the infrastructure, the people, the trucks in place to make it happen once this thing flips. And I guess it's anybody's guess when it actually flips, but hopefully sooner than later.
That's been the funnest thing I've been researching. It's always between like Q1 or Q2 or second half. It depends on who you ask.
Exactly.
Kind of thinking about here as well. We got about like 2 minutes left, especially being Variant, a driver-focused brand. Or is there any cool things in terms of like recruiting? Is that something where drivers are trying to recruit more drivers into Variant, or do you kind of bring them into your traditional pipelines? I think I read something, but it may have been a year or two ago, where drivers had like a special recruiting thing where they could get more perks or be mentors as they bring people in Variant. But that was a while ago, so I didn't know if there was any specific perks for getting drivers to get more drivers into Variant.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I guess, more of a standard recruiting model at this point where drivers can earn, extra income for recruiting. That's open to all of our drivers. Previously, we played around with different ideas. We had an ambassador program, where it was specific, and we gave drivers a landing page and things like that. But since then we've decided to open it up to all drivers from a recruiting standpoint. But yes, we have ways for current drivers to earn money from a recruiting standpoint. But it's more of a standard operation at this point.
And final thoughts here as well. Is it one of those interesting things, positioning moving forward? When the market gets soft, it feels like there's more drivers. And then when the market's hot, it feels like it's harder to find drivers. Is this something where with Variant having the technology and the scalability, if you just need to run up the dial, then you can like capitalize?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people understand that dynamic. We can definitely turn it on and off from a recruiting standpoint. it is a little bit easier to pull in drivers, at this point. But again, we've work on a up market strategy and a down market, and then vice versa. So we feel that once we get to again when everything flips, that we've got a strategy to service the customers, bring the drivers in, and really support all things trucking here at Variant. So just because it's down market, we're still working on stuff when it flips to make sure that we're still providing a superior service and a really good product to our customers.
Perfect. As the saying goes, regardless of your place in the market, good operations remains eternal. Josh, thank you so much for coming on as well. Yep. Looking forward to seeing what you're up to, and I'll have to make the trip up the road. Come visit y'all sometime.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me, Thomas. I certainly appreciate it.
Have a good one. That's about it for the show today, though. Only have a few seconds left. You can catch us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern live. We turned it into a podcast on Apple and Spotify. Also do a newsletter every Tuesday and Thursday, sometime around 2:30 to 3. That's it, folks. Join us next week, though. We'll do it live.